The mining station floated in silence above the surface of a dying star. Its metal hull carried years of scorch marks from solar flares, and the faint hum of its reactors filled every corridor. Inside, life was slow and repetitive. Crews worked in shifts, tending to the endless repairs that kept the station alive. Rian was one of the many workers who had grown used to the monotony. He was a repairman, responsible for fixing power conduits and broken lighting panels. Every morning started with the same routine. He would collect his tools from the storage room, check the daily repair list, and move from one end of the station to the other. The work was tiring, but it kept the station running, and Rian preferred the quiet life. That morning began no differently. He was tightening a loose bolt on a wall panel when a voice came through the station's speaker system. The announcement was calm but drew the attention of every worker nearby. Attention crew. A new civilian worker will be joining us today. Please make her feel welcome. Rian glanced toward the elevator at the end of the corridor. The door slid open with a hiss, and two security officers stepped out, escorting a figure between them. She was tall and slim, her skin a pale blue that caught the station's artificial light. Her silver eyes scanned the surroundings with quiet precision. She wore the standard uniform given to civilian cleaners, but her skirt was longer and heavier than usual. In one hand, she carried a small cleaning kit, while the other rested against her side as if guarding something unseen. "This is Mira," one of the officers said. "She has been assigned to station maintenance as part of a new exchange program." Mira gave a small bow. She did not smile, but there was no hostility in her expression. Her gaze passed over each crew member without lingering too long. Yet Rian felt as though she noticed more than she let on. The officers led her down the corridor toward the living quarters. The crew slowly returned to their work, whispering among themselves. Alien workers were rare on the station. Most came only for short visits or trade purposes. Having one assigned as a cleaner was unusual, especially one from an allied but distant world. Rian finished his repair and moved to his next task. Yet as he walked, his mind kept returning to the new arrival. Something about her presence unsettled him, though he could not explain why. Later that day, Rian was sent to repair a lighting panel near the main cafeteria. As he crouched beside the wall, the sound of soft footsteps approached. He looked up to see Mira moving silently along the corridor, her hands folded neatly in front of her. She carried a bucket and a cloth, pausing every few steps to wipe dust from the railings. Her movements were deliberate, almost too precise for simple cleaning work. When she noticed Rian watching, she stopped. For a moment they simply looked at each other. Then she gave a short nod and continued past him without a word. By the end of the shift, the station was buzzing with quiet talk about her. Some claimed she was from a planet that had been at war for decades. Others said her people had advanced weapons hidden in plain sight. The more practical crew members dismissed these as stories meant to pass the time. Still, no one could deny she seemed different from the rest. That night in the crew lounge, Rian overheard two engineers speaking in low voices. "Did you see the way she looked at the security doors near the docking bay?" One asked. "Yeah," the other replied. "Like she was measuring them." Rian tried to ignore it, focusing instead on his food. Yet the conversation stayed in his thoughts. He had noticed the same thing earlier. She never glanced at anything without purpose. Her eyes seemed to weigh every detail, from the height of the ceilings to the placement of the cameras. The next day brought another chance encounter. Rian was repairing a conduit in one of the quieter maintenance halls when Mira appeared again. She walked past without greeting him, but this time he saw her stop at a storage room door. She pressed her hand against the panel as if testing it, then moved on when footsteps echoed from behind. Rian frowned. The storage room was locked and only accessible to certain crew members. Why would she be interested in it? By the third day, he noticed a pattern. Whenever he saw Mira, she was either near important parts of the station or moving in ways that avoided direct interaction. She spoke rarely, and when she did, her words were short and careful. Despite his curiosity, Rian reminded himself that it was not his job to question new workers. Yet he could not shake the feeling that she was more than she appeared to be. One evening, As he was returning to his quarters, he passed by the docking bay window. Outside, the dying star burned dimly, its once bright surface covered in swirling dark patches. Cargo ships drifted in and out, loading supplies for distant colonies. Rian paused to watch, but his gaze shifted when he noticed a reflection in the glass behind him. Mira stood at the far end of the corridor. She was looking in his direction. Though her eyes were not on him, they were fixed on the security console. Near the docking bay door, when she realized he had noticed her, she turned away and walked toward the crew quarters. Rian stayed at the window a little longer, his thoughts restless. He told himself that maybe she was simply unfamiliar with the station and curious about its systems. Yet deep down, he suspected there was something else at play. That night, as he lay in his narrow bunk, he found it difficult to sleep. The sound of the reactor hummed through the walls, steady and constant. He closed his eyes, but the image of the silver-eyed alien in her heavy skirt would not leave his mind. Something about her did not fit with the story the officers had given. She was not just a cleaner. She was watching, studying, and perhaps waiting for something. Rian did not know what it was, but he had the uneasy feeling that whatever it might be, it would soon involve him. The morning cycle began with the usual announcements over the station's speaker system. The hum of machinery filled the corridors, mixing with the faint scent of recycled air. Rian grabbed his tool bag and stepped out of his quarters, ready for another day of repairs. His list showed 3 tasks: replace a burnt conduit in quarter 7, check the wiring in the lower supply deck, and inspect a faulty door sensor in the south docking hall. The first 2 jobs went smoothly. It was while walking toward the docking hall that Rian overheard the whispers. The crew members stood near the break room, speaking in quiet tones. "They say she came here because her home world signed some treaty," one man said. "I heard." "It was not just a treaty," the other replied, "more like a surrender. Her people lost a war, and now they send workers as part of the deal." Rian slowed his steps, pretending to check his tool bag so he could listen without drawing attention. "Then why send her here?" the first man asked. "No idea. But she's not here to scrub floors. I can tell you that. You see how she walks, like she's on patrol." The 2 men noticed Rian nearby and ended their conversation. He walked on, but the words stayed in his head. If Mira's presence was tied to war or politics, it would explain her watchful behavior. Still, he had no proof, and crew gossip was rarely reliable. When Rian reached the docking hall, he found the faulty door sensor blinking red. He crouched beside it and began unscrewing the panel. The sound of footsteps echoed down the corridor. Without looking up, he already knew who it was. Mira moved with the same calm, steady pace as before, her silver eyes taking in every detail of the hall. She carried her cleaning bucket in one hand, a folded cloth in the other. She stopped near the docking bay window, gazing out at the slow movement of cargo ships beyond the station. For a moment, Rian thought she might speak, but she remained silent. Then, faintly, he heard something unusual. She was humming. The tune was not random. It had a sharp, patterned rhythm. He recognized it without knowing where from, the kind of tone used by the station's short-range signal system. Mira's voice was low, almost too soft to hear over the machinery. She seemed to be timing the hum between the beeps of a nearby cargo loader. After a few moments, she stopped, as if nothing had happened, and walked away. Rian finished his repair but felt unsettled. Why would she hum in a pattern that matched station communication codes? It could be coincidence, but something in her careful manner suggested otherwise. Later that day, Rian went to the cafeteria for his midday meal. The place was half full, with crew members talking in small groups. Mira sat alone at a table in the far corner. Eating quietly, she kept her eyes on her tray, only lifting them when someone passed nearby. A group of younger workers at the next table spoke in low voices, but Rian caught fragments. She was near the engine room yesterday. Was she cleaning? No, just standing there. She left as soon as a guard came by. Rian ate in silence, listening without turning his head. The more he heard, the more he noticed a pattern. Mira always seemed to be near important sections of the station, never the less important ones. After lunch, Rian was assigned to check a loose connection in the observation deck's power circuit. The deck was one of the quietest parts of the station, used mostly by crew during their free time. As he worked, he noticed Mira in the distance. She stood by a large viewing glass, staring at the dying star outside. The light from the star reflected in her silver eyes, making them seem brighter than usual. Rian pretended to adjust his tools while watching her. She reached into her cleaning kit and removed a small cloth, wiping the railing in slow, even strokes, but every so often. She glanced toward the security camera in the corner of the room. When the maintenance alarm sounded for the shift change, Mira left without a word. Rian finished his work and reported the completed repair, but his mind was far from his tasks. That evening, as he returned to his quarters, he passed by the long main hallway that connected the station's living quarters to the command deck. It was mostly empty except for two crew members leaning against the wall. They were whispering again. "She was in the storage deck today," one said. "How do you know?" "I was there for inventory." She pretended to clean the floor, but she kept glancing at the locked crates. Rian kept walking, but the conversation added to the growing list of strange details. Mira was everywhere she did not seem to need to be, always moving quietly, always looking. That night, he tried to sleep, but his thoughts kept circling. He remembered the weight of her skirt when she walked past him in the cafeteria. It seemed too heavy for just fabric. He remembered the sound of her humming in that precise rhythm. He remembered how her eyes never wandered without reason. It was possible she was just a cautious worker from a world with different customs. Yet something told him she was here for more than cleaning. The question was, for what purpose? And why was she hiding it from everyone? The next day, Rian decided he would start paying closer attention. Not to confront her, not yet, but to learn more. If there was a reason for her strange behavior, he wanted to know it before the rest of the crew found out. He had a feeling that whatever Mira was planning, the quiet days on the station were about to end. The station was quiet that morning, the kind of calm that came before a scheduled cargo arrival. Most of the crew were preparing for the new shipment, checking manifests, clearing storage space, and inspecting the docking clamps. Rian was assigned to help carry crates from the supply shuttle to the storage deck. It was not his usual repair work, but extra hands were needed. The cargo bay smelled faintly of metal and oil. Large crates were stacked in neat rows, each marked with the station's code. Workers moved back and forth, lifting, pushing, and shouting instructions over the clatter of machinery. Rian was hauling a crate toward the storage lift when he heard the familiar soft sound of footsteps. He turned his head and saw Mira entering the bay. She carried no cleaning supplies this time, only a small data pad in her hand. Her silver eyes scanned the stacked cargo, and she began walking slowly between the rows. Rian frowned. The cargo bay was busy, and she was not assigned here. Still, she moved with the same quiet precision as always, her gaze lingering on certain crates longer than others. One of the workers called for help with a heavy box. Rian stepped forward to assist. As they lifted the crate together, his foot caught on something. He stumbled forward, bumping into Mira as she passed. The impact was not hard, but it caused the lower part of her skirt to shift. A sharp metallic sound rang out, brief but clear, like two pieces of steel brushing together. Mira steadied herself and gave Rian a short look. "Careful," she said, softly, her voice calm but firm. "Sorry," Rian replied, stepping back. But his mind was already turning. The sound had not been from her data pad or the crate. It had come from beneath her skirt. Something solid, something heavy. She walked away without another word, disappearing behind a tall stack of cargo. Rian stood still for a moment, the noise of the bay fading in his thoughts. That sound could only mean metal, and not just any metal, but the kind used in tools or weapons. Later, during the midday break, Rian saw her again in the cafeteria. She sat alone as usual, her skirt draped neatly over her knees. It did not sway the way ordinary fabric did when she moved. Instead, it hung with a weight that seemed unnatural for station clothing. He tried to focus on his meal. But curiosity gnawed at him. If she was carrying something, why hide it in her uniform? And how had she managed to avoid the regular security scans when boarding the station? After the break, Rian was sent to fix a faulty vent near the security office. As he worked, he overheard two guards speaking inside the room. She managed to pass through the scanner without a single alert. One said, "I still think something's off." The other replied, "Her uniform is thicker than standard issue." But the scans read nothing unusual. Rian kept his head down, pretending not to hear. The fact that even the guards were suspicious confirmed he was not imagining things. The rest of the day passed without further encounters. But in the evening, Rian's suspicions deepened. He was on his way to his quarters when he saw Mira walking toward one of the restricted maintenance corridors. She looked around briefly before slipping inside. He waited a few moments, then followed. The corridor was dimly lit, with exposed pipes running along the ceiling. At the far end, Mira was crouched beside a sealed panel. Her back was to him, but her hands moved with practiced skill. It was clear she was not cleaning. She was opening the panel. Rian took a quiet step forward. His foot pressed against the metal floor, making the faintest sound. Mira froze. Slowly, she turned her head. Their eyes met in the half-light. Neither spoke. After a moment, she rose to her feet and stepped away from the panel. Without a word, she walked past him, her skirt brushing lightly against his leg as she passed. The faint metallic weight was there again, hidden but undeniable. That night, Rian lay awake in his bunk, the sound of that hidden metal echoing in his mind. He thought about the way she moved, the places she visited, the way she seemed to study every corner of the station. She was hiding something important. And it was under that skirt. The question was no longer if she had something, it was what, and why she had chosen him as the one to notice. Because deep down, Rian felt certain she was aware of his curiosity, and instead of avoiding him, she seemed to let him see just enough to keep him wondering. The station's days of quiet routine were slipping away, and Rian knew it. Something was coming, and Mira was at the center of it. The next few days passed with an uneasy calm. Rian kept to his repair work, but his attention was never far from Mira. She continued her silent movements around the station, always appearing in places she had no reason to be. The weight in her skirt was no longer just a suspicion to him. It was real, and it had a purpose. The answer came sooner than he expected. It began with a sharp tremor that shook the floor beneath his feet. Rian was in the lower maintenance deck, tightening a bolt on a coolant pipe, when the walls vibrated with a deep, distant thud. The station lights flickered for a second before stabilizing. Then the alarm sounded, a piercing tone that every crew member knew well. "Incoming vessels detected," the automated voice announced over the speakers. "All non-combat personnel proceed to emergency shelters." Rian grabbed his tool bag and started toward the shelter corridor. But before he could take more than a few steps, another tremor rattled the deck. This time, the sound was closer. A dull roar followed by the distant echo of metal striking metal. Pirates. That was the word that came to his mind. The region near the dying star was known for them. Most were desperate scavengers, but some were armed enough to take entire stations. Crew members rushed past him, heading for safety. Rian joined them, but as he rounded the corner near the supply lift, he saw Mira moving in the opposite direction. She was heading toward the outer airlocks. He stopped, confused. "Shelter is that way," he called out. She glanced at him for only a moment. "Not for me," she said, then kept walking. Something in her tone made him follow without thinking. She led him through a narrow maintenance tunnel that ran parallel to the main corridor. The sound of boots and shouts echoed faintly through the walls as they passed. The tunnel ended at a locked storage hatch. Mira placed her hand against the control panel. It lit up with a soft green glow and slid open. Inside, the room was dark except for the faint blue light from a small control screen. Rian stepped inside after her. "What are you doing?" he asked. She turned toward him, her silver eyes steady. Then, without hesitation, she reached down and lifted the heavy folds of her skirt. From beneath the fabric, she drew out a sleek, compact object wrapped in dark cloth. When she unwrapped it, Rion's breath caught. It was a weapon, but unlike any human-made gun he had ever seen. Its frame was smooth and curved, made of a strange black alloy that seemed to absorb the light. The barrel was short but wide, and glowing lines ran along its sides. She held it out to him. "For you," she said. Rion stared at the weapon, unsure whether to take it. "Why me?" "Because you are human," she replied. "And because my people trust humans to act when others would only wait." He took the weapon slowly. It felt lighter than it looked, perfectly balanced in his hands. "What is this?" "Relic from my world," she said. "It is old, but powerful. It fires a focused pulse strong enough to disable armored targets. It has been hidden here, waiting for the day it would be needed." Rion looked at her, trying to piece everything together. "You have been carrying this the whole time?" "Yes," she said simply, "hidden under the uniform they gave me. The skirt was designed for it." The station shuddered again, this time followed by the distant hiss of decompression. Somewhere, a section of the hull had been breached. "We do not have long," Mira said. "The pirates will reach the central control deck soon. The station's defense cannons are offline. If they take control, no one will be safe." Rion hesitated. "Why not use the weapon yourself? My orders." "Where to place it in human hands," she answered. "You understand this station better than I do. You know the passages, the choke points. I will guide you, but you must act." Rion tightened his grip on the weapon. He was no soldier, but the urgency in her voice left no room for refusal. "All right, tell me where to go." Mira stepped to the control screen in the corner of the room and activated a small map of the station. Red markers showed the pirate boarding parties moving through the corridors. She pointed to a narrow route along the maintenance paths. "This way will take us behind their front line," she said. "From there, you can disable their entry controls. It will trap the ones already inside and cut off more from entering." Rion nodded. "Let's move." They slipped back into the maintenance tunnel, the weapon held close to his chest. Mira moved quickly, her eyes scanning every corner before they turned. The sounds of gunfire and shouted orders grew louder as they approached the central decks. When they reached the first junction, Rion peeked through a grated vent into the main corridor. 3 pirates in patched armor were forcing crew members toward the shelters at gunpoint. He aimed the weapon through the grate and squeezed the trigger. A burst of bright blue light shot out, striking the nearest pirate in the chest. The armor glowed for a second before the man collapsed, stunned. The others spun in confusion. But before they could react, Rion fired again. Both fell to the ground, unmoving but alive. Mira opened the grate, and they slipped into the now empty corridor. Quickly, she said, "Others will come." They pushed forward, moving from cover to cover. At each encounter, the weapon proved as effective as she claimed. The pirates were unprepared for its precision and power. Rion's hand shook, but he kept firing, each shot clearing the way. Finally, they reached the control junction near the docking bay. Mira worked at the panel, her fingers moving rapidly over the controls. "Almost done," she said. "Hold them off." Rion positioned himself at the corner. Footsteps thundered toward them. A group of pirates appeared, weapons raised, but he fired before they could get close. The blast from the alien weapon forced them back, buying Mira the time she needed. "There," she said at last. "The doors are sealed. No more will enter." Rion lowered the weapon slightly, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. "What now?" "Now," she said. "We pushed them out of the station." The sealed docking bay doors bought them precious minutes, but the danger was far from over. The pirates already inside the station were regrouping. Rion and Mira could hear their shouts echoing through the metal corridors as they prepared for another push. Mira checked the map on the wall display. Red signals marked the pirates' positions. They were moving toward the power junction that controlled the life support systems. If they damaged it, the station crew would have no choice but to surrender. Rion tightened his grip on the alien weapon. "We cannot let them get there," he said. "We will not," Mira replied, her voice calm but firm. "Follow me. We will take the service shafts. They are narrow, but the pirates will not expect resistance from there." They moved quickly, ducking into a maintenance hatch and climbing the steep ladder inside. The shaft was cramped, the metal walls cold against Rion's hands. The hum of the station's systems surrounded them, a steady reminder that every part of the place depended on these hidden passages. Halfway up, they heard the faint thump of boots above them. Mira stopped and looked down at Rion. There, using the upper access hall. We can reach them from the side junction. Be ready. When they reached the hatch, Mira pushed it open just enough for Rion to see. Two pirates were standing guard near the junction door, weapons slung casually over their shoulders. They had no idea anyone was close. Rion lifted the alien weapon and aimed carefully. The pulse struck the first pirate in the chest, sending him to the floor before he could shout. The second spun around, but another quick shot dropped him beside his companion. They stepped into the hall. Mira closed the hatch behind them, keeping their path hidden. This way, she said, leading him toward the main junction. The closer they got, the more resistance they met. At the next corner, 3 pirates were crouched behind overturned crates, firing down the hallway toward a group of station security officers. The officers were pinned, unable to return fire without exposing themselves. Rion crouched beside Mira. If we take them from here, the guards can push forward, he whispered. Mira nodded. Aim for the center of their armor. The weapon will do the rest. Rion took a deep breath and stepped into view. The first shot hit the nearest pirate, his armor flaring with a brief blue glow before he collapsed. The other two turned toward the unexpected attack, but they were too slow. Rion's next shot struck them down one after another. The security officers moved quickly, securing the hallway and nodding their thanks. We will hold this section, one of them said. Go. The others are still inside. Rion and Mira pressed on. Every few minutes they encountered another small group of pirates. The alien weapon never failed, and each success gave Rion more confidence. At first his hands had trembled, but now he fired with steady aim, each pulse landing exactly where he wanted it. As they neared the life support junction, they heard the heavy thud of something striking metal. The pirates were trying to force the control doors open. Mira checked the side passage. We can flank them from here, she said. They moved through the narrow side hall until they reached a vent overlooking the junction room. Below them, 6 pirates worked at the doors, their tools sparking as they cut through the locking mechanisms. Mira whispered, You take the 3 on the left. I will distract the others. Before Rion could ask how, she pulled a small device from her cleaning kit and tossed it into the far corner of the room. It struck the floor with a sharp metallic clink and released a burst of white light. The pirates flinched and turned toward the noise. Rion fired. His shots hit the first 3 targets in quick succession. The weapon's pulses sent them crumpling to the ground. Mira dropped down from the vent, moving with speed and precision, and struck one of the distracted pirates with a kick that sent his tool flying. Rion covered her, taking out the remaining 2 before they could recover. The room fell silent except for the hum of the control systems. Mira stepped to the doors and checked the locks. They have done some damage, but it can be repaired. You saved this section. Rion looked at the weapon in his hands. This is not just my doing, he said. Without you, I would not have made it this far. Her silver eyes met his. I was sent here to protect the station, but I could not do it alone. My people chose to give this weapon to a human for a reason. Humans act with instinct and courage when the moment demands it. That is why I said for you. I meant it. Rion felt the weight of her words. The trust she had placed in him was not casual. It was a choice made long before the attack began. Their moment was cut short by the sound of voices on the comm system. The station commander was calling for all remaining resistance forces to push the pirates back to the docking bay. The shield systems were coming back online, but only if the attackers were driven out quickly. Mira nodded toward the corridor. It is time to finish this. They joined a group of security officers and moved together toward the docking bay. The fighting grew fiercer as they closed in. Pirates had taken defensive positions. Desperate to hold their ground, Rion moved between cover points, firing whenever he had a clear shot. Mira stayed close, guiding him through the chaos and watching for threats from the flanks. Bit by bit, They pushed the enemy back. The air smelled of overheated metal, and the floor was scattered with the debris of broken equipment. Shouts echoed off the walls, mixing with the sharp bursts from the alien weapon. Finally, they reached the docking bay. The sealed doors that Mira had locked earlier were beginning to glow from the heat of cutting tools. The pirates outside were trying to break in, but the remaining attackers inside were surrounded. The station commander's voice rang out over the loudspeakers. "This is your last chance. Surrender or be locked in until the patrol fleet arrives." The pirates hesitated, glancing between the locked doors and the advancing crew. One by one, they dropped their weapons. The battle was over. Rian lowered the alien weapon, his arms heavy from the fight. Mira stepped beside him, her voice quiet. "The station is safe for now." The docking bay was quiet now. The air was heavy with the smell of burnt wiring and scorched metal. Crew members moved through the space, collecting weapons, securing prisoners, and tending to the wounded. The pirates who had surrendered sat against the far wall, their hands bound. Some glared at the station guards, while others stared at the floor, their will to fight gone. Rian stood near the center of the bay, still holding the alien weapon. His arms ached, but his mind stayed alert. Even in victory, he could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. Mira was speaking with the station commander, her silver eyes scanning the bay as she talked. She seemed calm, but Rian noticed the way her hand rested on the hilt of her own sidearm. She was ready for trouble. The commander approached Rian. "You have done more than we expected," he said. "Without your help, we might have lost the life support systems." Rian shook his head. "I was not alone. Mira guided me through all of it." The commander nodded toward her. "She is one of the best. But you," he paused, as if searching for the right words. "You handled yourself like a trained soldier. Are you sure you've never fought in battles before?" Rian gave a small smile. "Not like this. I've had to defend myself a few times, but never against pirates on a space station." Before the commander could reply, a shout came from the far side of the bay. One of the guards was pointing at a small blinking device on the floor near the sealed docking doors. Mira moved quickly, kneeling beside it. Her fingers worked fast, examining the object without touching it too much. "It is a signal beacon," she said, her voice firm. "They have sent a message to someone outside." The commander's face tightened. "They are calling for reinforcements." Rian's heart sank. "The pirates who escaped, most likely," Mira replied. "We blocked their first entry, but they may try again once they know our defenses are damaged." The commander turned to his officers. "Get this beacon to the engineering bay. See if you can trace the signal before it's too late." Two guards hurried off with the device. The rest of the crew returned to work, but the energy in the docking bay had shifted. The relief of victory was now shadowed by the possibility of another fight. Mira stepped close to Rian. "You should rest. The next attack may come before the day is over." Rian frowned. "And if it does, you'll need me." She studied him for a moment before nodding. "Then rest for a short time. Keep your strength. I will call for you if anything changes." He found a quiet corner and sat down, keeping the weapon close. His mind replayed the events of the day, each hallway, each corner, each moment where one wrong move could have ended it all. But the memory that stayed with him most was Mira's voice when she had said, "For you." After a short rest, Rian woke to find the station busier than before. Technicians were repairing damaged systems, security officers were setting up barricades, and Mira was speaking with a group of engineers near the life support junction. She waved them over. "They have found the signal's origin," she said. "It is coming from a ship hidden near the debris field outside the station. It is not moving yet, but it is waiting." Rian looked at the engineers. "How long until they can get here if they decide to attack?" 1 to 2 hours. An engineer answered. "Maybe less if they use full engine power." Mira turned to Rian. "We must prepare the outer defenses. The shield system is still weak, but we can strengthen certain sections. I need your help." They moved to the control center, where large displays showed the station's structure and the surrounding space. Mira pointed to several weak points along the shield perimeter. "If they attack here, we will not hold for long. We must reinforce these areas. Rian worked with her and the technicians, adjusting energy flows, diverting power from non-essential systems, and setting up emergency shield generators. Every minute mattered. The tension in the control room grew with each update from the lookout crews. Finally, one of the watch officers reported, "The hidden ship is moving. It has activated its engines." The commander's voice came over the station comms. "All crew, prepare for possible contact. Security teams to your posts." Rian's pulse quickened. The first battle had been fast and chaotic, but now they had a chance to prepare. He checked the alien weapon again, making sure it was ready. Mira stood beside him, her expression unreadable. "Do not lose focus," she said softly. "They will test us again. But we are ready." The minutes dragged. The approaching ships. Signal grew stronger on the radar display. Then, without warning, it stopped moving. Confused murmurs filled the control room. "Why did they stop?" Rian asked. Mira tilted her head, studying the readings. "Perhaps they are waiting for something or someone." The commander opened a channel to the outer patrol fleet, requesting backup. The nearest Allied ships were still several hours away. If the pirates attacked before then, the station would have to hold alone. An uneasy silence settled over everyone. Rian could feel the strange weight in the air, as if the station itself was holding its breath. Then Mira spoke quietly, almost to herself. "This is not over. They may strike when they believe we are distracted." She turned to Rian. "Stay close to me. If they breach the shields, we move together." Rian nodded. He had no intention of leaving her side. Far outside, beyond the safety of the shields, the pirate ship drifted silently near the debris field. Its engines glowed faintly, ready to surge forward at any moment. Inside the station, everyone waited. Victory had been claimed only hours ago, but already shadows of the next battle were gathering. The quiet inside the station did not last. Hours passed, and the pirate ship outside kept its distance, floating near the debris field like a predator watching its prey. The station crew stayed on high alert. Everyone knew an attack could come at any moment. Rian sat in the control room beside Mira, watching the radar display. The glowing dot that marked the enemy ship had not moved, but Rian could feel the tension growing in his chest. The waiting was almost worse than the fighting. Suddenly, the lights in the control room flickered. A sharp alarm filled the air. One of the technicians shouted, "Our sensors are failing. We are losing tracking on the debris field." Mira leaned over the console, her eyes narrowing. "They are jamming our sensors. They want to blind us before they move." The commander's voice came over the comms. "All defense teams, prepare for contact. Engineering, keep the shield power steady." Then another alert rang out. A known small craft detected. Multiple contacts, approaching fast from the debris field. Rian stood quickly. So they were hiding in the debris the whole time. Mira's hands moved across the console, bringing up the shield grid. "These are not large ships. They are attack drones, fast, armed, and hard to hit." On the main display, tiny red markers swarmed toward the station. The outer defense turrets began firing, sending bright streaks of energy into the blackness of space. Some drones exploded, but more kept coming. A loud impact shook the station. "Hull breach in Sector 9. A voice called from engineering. "Emergency doors are sealing." Mira turned to Rian. "They are testing our defenses. If they can force us to split our focus, the main ship will move in." The commander's voice returned. "We have a bigger problem." A device was launched onto the outer surface of the station. It is attached near the main shield generator. If it explodes, the shield will collapse. Mira's eyes locked on Rian. "We have to remove it." Within minutes, they were in the airlock, wearing light spacesuits. The alien weapon Rian carried was sealed in a magnetic holster on his side. Mira carried a toolkit strapped to her waist. The outer hatch opened, and the cold emptiness of space spread before them. The station's metal surface stretched out like a silver road beneath their boots. In the distance, bright flashes marked where the defense turrets battled the drones. They moved quickly, their magnetic boots holding them to the station's skin. The stars seemed to watch silently as they approached the section where the device had been placed. When they reached it, Rian saw that the device was small but covered in sharp angles and glowing lines. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Mira knelt beside it, scanning it with a small tool. It is armed. A simple detonation would destroy the shield generator. Can you disarm it? Rian asked. Yes, but I need time. Keep watch, Rian. Turned, scanning the horizon. At first, all he saw was the station's massive curve and the dark void beyond. Then he noticed movement to drones sweeping toward them, flying low along the station's surface. They are coming, he said. Mira did not look up. Hold them off. The drones moved fast, firing small bursts of energy that sparked against the metal. Rian drew the alien weapon and fired. The first drone exploded in a burst of light, spinning off into space. The second dodged, weaving side to side as it came closer. Rian aimed carefully and fired again. The shot hit one of its wings, sending it tumbling. It struck the station's surface and shattered. Done, Mira said, standing. She held the device in her hands, now silent and dark. It is safe. They began moving back toward the airlock. The battle outside was still raging. More drones were swarming the station, and the defense turrets were struggling to keep up. As they walked, Rian glanced toward the debris field. The main pirate ship was moving now, slowly at first, then faster. Its engines glowed brightly, and its shape grew larger against the stars. They are coming in, he said. Mira's voice was calm but urgent. Then we must return quickly. The final fight is about to start. They reached the airlock, sealed it, and removed their helmets. The commander was already there, waiting. Good work. The shield is holding, but the pirate ship will be within firing range in minutes. In the control room, the displays showed the enemy ship approaching at high speed. It was much larger than the drones, with heavy armor and multiple weapon mounts. Direct the shields to front-facing strength, Mira ordered. Focus turret fire on their weapon systems. The station shook as the first heavy blast from the pirate ship struck the shields. The energy barrier rippled but stayed intact. Turrets fired back, lighting space with streaks of blue and gold. Rian stood at one of the side consoles, tracking incoming drone waves. Another group is approaching from the rear. If they hit the engines, we could lose station control. Mira tapped the comms. Rear defense teams, concentrate fire on drones. Do not let them reach the engine sector. The battle stretched on. The shields flickered under the constant barrage every time a drone was destroyed. Another seemed to take its place. The pirate ship pressed closer, trying to break through. Finally, one of the defense officers shouted, direct hit on their starboard weapons. They are losing firepower. Mira's eyes narrowed. We can push them back. Focus all turrets on their engines. The station's guns roared in unison, striking the pirate ship again and again. Sparks and debris flew from its hull. The ship began to turn away, its engines flaring as it tried to retreat. They are falling back, Rian said, relief in his voice. The commander nodded. But they will return if we do not stay ready. We will repair the station and call for reinforcements to guard the sector. Mira looked at Rian. You fought well again. Without you, the shield would have been lost. Rian smiled faintly. I am just glad we are still standing. Outside, the stars returned to their quiet glow, but the station remained alert. The second storm had passed, but everyone knew it was not the last. Somewhere in the darkness, the pirates would be watching, waiting for their chance to strike again.